Good morning.
Good morning. Hello.
How are you?
I am great. How are you?
Good. Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you as well.
Where are you located?
I live in New Hampshire.
Okay. Wonderful.
How about you?
I'm in Kansas City, Missouri.
Cool.
Yeah. So how's everything in New Hampshire? What's the I'm just curious. I've never really talked to many people that live there. What's the
It's beautiful. I mean, we have the mountains, the green, snow in the winter, and then we're close to the beaches. It's really lovely.
Okay, excellent. Well, it's great to meet you. And before we dive into your work and your mission in life, I want to know how you survived COVID. The last 3 years was quite an ordeal. How did you get through it? That's an understatement. And how did it change the way that you do things now?
COVID, well, the first thing that happened was before COVID even started, December of 2019. I had the sort of intuitive knowing of closing my in-person side of the business. Um, I used to see people at home in a dedicated room, and it was sort of 50-50 at that time. I had online clients and I was seeing some people online, and I just had the intuitive knowing of shutting down that side. So as of January 1st, I shut down the in-person side of my business. And then I came to know why in March 2020. So that was the first thing that happened. In the aftermath of that, I mean, I think my main concern wasn't so much my business. Business was going on and my healing journey as well. But it was more related to at the time, I had a 9-year-old daughter, and was her school going to close or not close? And my husband's job, because I worked from home, I was more of an easier person to manage it for myself. So all of those things, in the end, it all sort of worked out once my daughter's school switched to online and we figured out a rhythm and a routine. Um, and she ended up actually having a wonderful time. She got to spend time with neighbors' kids, and she played outside at all temperatures. It's really cold here in New Hampshire, but they didn't mind. And the other thing that happened with my business is I started to create more online offerings around that time. In that 1 year, I actually created 4 different healing journals, and they sort of started with an email. A previous subscriber wrote to me and said, "Damla, I love this offering. Is it possible to turn it into a written thing?" And I was like, okay, let's do it. So that's the second thing that happened that I'm really happy about.
Excellent. So let's get to the heart and soul of what you do for a living on a daily basis. I want to put you in front of a bunch of third graders at a career day, and one of the kids looks up at you and says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
I help people heal their energetic wounds. I help them one on one by looking at places they may have been hurt in the past, and to bring out the potential in those places by seeing, nourishing, and loving. And the other thing I help people do is self heal themselves through programs and memberships and healing opportunities that they can access anytime and anywhere. One of them is I have a crystal healing membership, and I have various online resources. And the intent with that is I would love people to be able to access healing resources whenever and wherever they can.
Yeah. So what did you want to be when you were in the third grade? Did you
I
know
want
that this was your path?
Not at all. I wanted to be a teacher, an art teacher specifically. And I ended up going on a journey of becoming an engineer first. Then through my MBA, I became a business process re-engineering consultant. That lasted for a bit until I started to hit some roadblocks in the form of physical issues in my body, um, which first led me to yoga. And I became a full-time yoga teacher, and I learned quite a bit through that. And within that, my second road correction, I should say, not roadblock, was becoming a mom. And in the process, I realized there was so much unhealed stuff in me still. I thought, I existed in a mind-based world before with being an engineer, being a consultant. My body didn't exist. With yoga, I discovered that I had a body. And then with motherhood, I discovered it was beyond that. There were so many different layers that I needed to access and heal. And that's when crystal healing, EFT tapping, sound healing, all of those vibrational methods came into my life, and I became dedicated to teaching them. So I became a teacher in a sense, in that way, um, and a self healer and a proponent of self healing.
That's wonderful. So, talk to me a little bit about where you were born and raised and how some of these seeds got into you that really grew into you being a healer and finding these things that need to be taken care of in people's lives.
I grew up in Turkey. I was born and raised in Turkey, and I did my undergraduate in Turkey, then lived and did my master's in Germany for a little bit, then I finished my master's in the US. So that's me coming to US is about going to be 20 plus years now. And it's been a journey. I mean, there have been seeds there, of course, as well as trauma that's been passed on. One of the things that I would call a seed is in my family, people might had a lot of aunts, and they would always tell each other about their dreams, and they would talk about their intuition is a very natural thing. And one of the things actually we did for each other was tell each other's fortune with Turkish coffee, which I now offer as a service, an intuitive service. So in that way, intuition was part of the conversation. Um, the other thing, of course, that's been passed on is my family are immigrants. My great grandparents were forced to migrate from Europe into Turkey for religious reasons. Of course, there's the trauma of several wars and several hardships embedded in there in the intergenerational field, as well as any loss, anything that hasn't been processed. So I can say both very clearly there are things I'm very proud of, and then there are things I'm working with and on still.
Yeah. So, who's been kind of a hero or a role model for you in your life?
Hero or a role model for me? Um, that's a great question. I think, I've thought about this a lot, and for me, it's basically anyone and everyone who wakes up in the morning with the presence of trauma and their wounds and still takes one step at a time and continues on their journey of self-healing, and especially moms, I think. Moms who do so much and who are still on their own healing journey. Those are my heroes.
So, if you could meet anybody alive on the planet right now and spend some time with them, who would it be?
I'm the first person that's coming to mind is Oprah.
Yeah, that's number one. Her and
That's
Michelle
that's who
Obama.
you hear about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
She seems fun
Oh,
and
yeah.
wise.
Yeah, for sure. So let me ask you this, for someone like Oprah, she obviously has a lot of motivation to do all of the things that she's done. What is that for you? What is your motivation every day to get up, to help people and to be on this healing journey?
I truly believe that it's my path. It took me a while. I mean, I changed 4 careers to find what I'm doing and what finally feels right and real and true to me. And people outside might look at it and say, "Oh, it's small or it's this or it's that." But for me, it's my life um, purpose and life calling, and it has a lot of different layers that it brought up and continues to bring up in me as I'm forced and asked to evolve and change through it. Like one of the things I've added this past year is I started to study astrology in a 3-year program, and I started to do readings. Um, so in the past, in my story, like I said, I've had been pushed into growing and changing through health crises plural. And my goal and path right now is not to be pushed, but to allow myself to be pulled by the things that speak to me and that I love. So in that way, I feel very much called to do what I do and to establish good structures around it, whether it's my time or whether it's my website, so that I can keep going and keep creating and keep offering this the healing hope any way that I can.
So you've obviously helped many people out there and given them hope and healing. What's been one of your favorite client success stories? One that puts a smile on your face?
Often, people don't realize how much they're holding on to or how much they are um, living with. I love it when a client comes to me and we go into like an inner child healing journey and they're like, oh yeah, like I used to be joyful. I used to be light and free. And at the end of the session, I can see a little bit of a smile on their faces. One of my recent ones is working with a single mom, and she had trouble accessing her anger. It was very hard to access her anger, and we worked on it. And in the end, she was able to feel into her body and have a sense of her anger and her emotions. To me, that's huge growth to be able to, because the other thing trauma does is you get numb. You get numb in your body, you shut down certain pathways. So for her to be able to say, Damla, I'm feeling this like sensation in my body when I get upset with someone, that's to me a huge, huge improvement.
Yeah, for sure. So if you were to have a dream tonight, you ran into the younger version of yourself, a 20-year-old version of yourself, and you could give that version of you a piece of advice based on the wisdom you've gained in your life, what would you tell that younger version of you?
Mm, I would I would hold her in my hand, in my arms, and I don't think she needed words so much at that time as I was growing up. She just needed someone to see her beauty, see her light, see her uniqueness. And I would hold her in my arms and I would tell her those things, but more like I would really hold her feeling those things, knowing those things, so she could just grab the vibration from me.
That's great. So of all the things that you've accomplished and done in your life up to this point, what are you the proudest of?
Hmm. I am proudest of um, the point that I am in my life where I can clearly say out loud and communicate my needs and say, for this, I need help with. Like, I can do this,
Yeah.
but for this, that took me a while to get there. So I'm proud of that.
Yeah. You know, the one thing that's very instrumental for all of us is art. Was there a book or a painting or music or what was it for you early on that really brought you comfort that still maybe does that you revisit?
I love poetry. I have a few hanging here. Um, I love I love also modern art. I have a quote hanging in my bathroom actually, which says, "Life is art, art is life."
Yeah,
And I truly believe we are all pieces of parts of life art, and each word, each thought, each breath we take is all part of the beautiful art that we are, and we are creating.
so you had mentioned that you wanted to be an artist. Do you paint? Do you do the arts?
I would like to think that I currently do some pottery, but that's more for I need some earthing in all the energy work that I do. I need something solid in my life. I like to think that everything that I do, from the words I put on Instagram to any blog posts I write, and I'm working on writing a book. Um, even the way I structure my website. So all of that is my art, and the way I hold my healings is my art. The way I create online courses is my art. So all of that I feel is my personal art being reflected in my healing work.
So the one thing about being energetically sensitive is that you, along with the good, the bad comes in. You've opened yourself up, obviously, to this to help others and to help yourself. How does that balance out for you? Do you ever think, wow, this is heavy. I need a break from all this energy? Or is it just so much a part of your DNA, who you are, that you just find a way to balance that? How does that work for you?
All the time. I mean, I need a break all the time. Interestingly, not when I'm doing healing, one-on-one healing with someone. I have pretty good boundaries around that. I can be in and out, and when I'm in a session, I'm very present and I'm there, and I don't feel burdened or loaded through a session. It feels good. For me, it's more existing in the world is hard sometimes, like going into crowded places or
Yeah.
spending time with extended family. I end up oftentimes finding I can feel into people's energy even when I don't really want to. So I'm finding that I need frequent breaks, and I need to fall back on my tools of crystal healing and meditation and just nature to get back to my senses. Um, the beauty of that is I'm aware of many different layers at all times. So if you were to say to me something, I also know what you're feeling and what's happening energetically in your body, which may or may not be in the same wavelength as what you're saying. Um, and at the same time, like I said, at certain times and points, it can be a lot.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. If you could go back in time and see any event in human history with your own eyes, what would you love to have seen happen?
I'm curious about how water came into Earth. I guess I wouldn't be a living being on Earth, but
Yeah.
there's because we don't know, water is a strange substance. Um, the theories that there was a meteor that you know hit Earth, and part of that became the moon, and so on. But I would be curious about seeing that.
That's fascinating because it literally is the reason why we look at other planets to see if there's a possibility of organisms that could grow. And if we didn't have that, that's fascinating. It's kind of like the inception of fire or something that's one of the elements that's big. Um, so everyone out there has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, colleagues, but you're the one in control. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Mm. I am an evolving and changing and growing and flowing um, piece of universe that I would like to think about is held together by love. We talk about the space between the atoms and the subatomic particles. There's a pull and push there that is a little bit like love because they have to work together. So I'd like to think that I'm a version of love here in this moment in time, and everything around me is a version of love too, their version. And my journey is finding out ways that I can coexist with that love and co-create with that love.
So if anyone wants to hire you, learn more about you, anything pertaining to your world, where is the best place to go?
My website, adropofom.com, adropofom.com. And you can find me on Instagram as adropofom, on Facebook, on YouTube. And I have quite a bit of free offers, and you can see all my offerings. I always tell people don't disregard the free offerings because they're as powerful as the paid ones. And I have quite a bit of them, and I have the online journals and such. So you can go and take a look, and I'm pretty accessible if you want to say hi.
That's wonderful. What a profound, intuitive conversation. I love the way you think. Thank you so much for opening up and being so good about your story and letting us in for a minute. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. This was a lot of fun.
It was absolutely.